How's it going, guys? If you can't tell, I'm big into making videos, and sometimes it's a lot easier to do that on the go with an iPhone than carrying around my SLR camera. So I wanted to show you ways that you could actually change the video settings on this to make sure that you get the most out of whatever shooting style you're going for. This video itself is shot in 30 frames per second. So if you're not familiar with what that means, it means that there are 30 still frames that you are seeing per second. There's lots of different recording settings, and it really depends on what you're trying to shoot. For instance, if you're looking to get more of like a cinematic look or something like that, you may want to shoot in 24 frames a second, whereas most of the things you see on the internet, such as YouTube videos or newscast stuff, a lot of that is shot in 30 frames per second. The next most common one is 60 frames per second, and that's going to be good if you're wanting to get really smooth, like really kind of action-y shots. It's great for video game content creation, or if you're filming sports, things that require a lot of movement. You're going to get a lot smoother images and less motion blur when you shoot in 60 frames per second. Video shooting modes such as 120 frames per second or 240 frames per second are mainly used for slow-mo video and typically not for everyday type shooting. That being said, if you're looking to learn how to change to different video modes on your iPhone, this video is for you. So let's just get right into it. So I just started a screen recording, and I'm going to show you step by step how to do this on the iPhone. So to start off, we're going to go to the settings of your iPhone. So I'm actually going to swipe down from the top and then type in settings here to get that to pull up. I'm running iOS 14, but this should be pretty much the same on iOS 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I highly suggest updating to the latest one available to you. I'm using beta software, but I promise you it looks the same on whatever iOS you're on, as long as you're above iOS 10. So I'm going to go up to the top here. You can see it has my information here. I'm going to scroll down until I see camera. Once you see camera, you're going to tap camera, and then the easiest way to see it is you have record video and record slow-mo. If you tap record video, this is going to show you all the different types of frame rates that you can choose and the space that it's normally going to take to save those videos. So that's something to think about. The more frames you take in per second, the higher the file size is going to be. So if you have a lower amount of storage on your iPhone, you may want to shoot in something with less frame rate or maybe a lower resolution. You can see my iPhone supports 4K, 1080p, and 720p, and that's going to be the resolution size. And then, of course, the different types of frame rates offered for those. Typically, I shoot at 4K 24 frames a second. I'm actually going to make a change, though, to change that to 4K at 30 frames per second. Auto low light FPS, what that does is it's going to reduce the frame rate to improve your low light video. That's something that you can turn off. I leave it on. I don't really see a big difference in motion blur or anything like that whenever that feature is on, so I leave it on by default. I'm going to swipe back here, and you can see there is a slow-mo section. By default, I leave mine on 1080p at 240 frames a second. That's going to give me the most frames, so I can slow it down even further. Something to think about is if you slow down, let's say you take a 120 frames second video, right? Once you slow that down by 50%, it essentially becomes it becomes a 60 frames per second video. So if you slow it down by half that again, you're going to have 30 frames per second. So this allows me to go very, very slow at 240 frames a second and still maintain a very smooth video. So back to this though. So now that those things are set, you can also change the format between high efficiency and most compatible. I'd say by default, most people can leave it on high efficiency. And what that is just going to be the file format that it saves as. Anytime you send this to websites or you upload it to an email or send it to a friend or whatever, it's going to convert automatically from your iPhone to whatever file format is most compatible. But for saving purposes, it saves it as the most efficient to make sure that you are getting the most out of your iPhone storage. So now that we're back on the home page here, I accidentally cut off my screen sharing, so I had to go back into that. But we're going to go ahead and open up the camera app now, and let's say I wanted to change the video resolution. You can change your video resolution dynamically on the phone just by going in the top right hand corner and tapping whether you want HD,